Okay, so we're live. Welcome back to the Magic Minds podcast. I'm Matt Burke. You're watching and listening to the Liberties #1 podcast. Yup, the Liberties. Yup, the Flats. What's the crack? Welcome back. Well, I'm so grateful for all the feedback I got about the last episode of the podcast. Me sitting here waffling away, doing a solo interview. I'm blown away by, the comments that I got, and the feedback, reaction from friends and family, the shares. It was brilliant, and it's great to hear that people are getting something from it. And it really inspires me because it's all about you guys. It's all about the listeners, my followers. It's not about me. Honestly, I'm doing my work and I hope you're doing yours. And through my story, because I love to tell stories, I love to talk, that you can be inspired and go off and make changes in your life that will serve you well. So it's absolutely fantastic. This episode is going to be another solo episode of me having the chats. It'll be under 30 minutes. I'm going to keep them really short. So look, I'll start this episode like I did the last episode, and I'll ask you to reflect by me asking you a question. So here's the question. Do you like your own company? Are you okay with your own thoughts? Are you okay in silence? Are you okay with your mind not being busy? Or do you use substances, or do you use behaviors or habits to avoid that? So the name of this episode is Facing the Darkness, and that's what this is all about. When we take away the substances, the behaviors, the foods, the habits, to keep us away from being alone with ourselves or alone with our own thoughts, we're facing into a dark. Now, I don't mean darkness as a trauma and a hurt, but into an emptiness, a void. Thoughts, feelings, emotions may come up that we may not want to be with. And for me, that's called facing into the dark. That's going into a cave that we've not been before. And here, this is what I think, these are my thoughts. The caves and the rooms that we fear to go in have the greatest treasure. Bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Bam, 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 bam. How'd you like them apples? Right, this is all about you. Remember, I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm not here to tell you how to do it. This is an inspirational podcast. This is not a how-to-do podcast. This is me asking you questions, asking you to reflect, telling a story, and hopefully through that story, through the stories of other people, you can be inspired to make changes in your life in areas that may not be serving you well. That's my mission. Stories that have the power to inspire. So before I get into the episode, I want to give a shout out to my main sponsor, Niall Riley from Rooney Media Graphics, for all your graphic design needs. Anything artistic about this podcast wouldn't be in the place that it's in today without the influence of Niall Riley and Rooney Media Graphics. He's my pal, he's my mentor, he's my mate forever and a day. But he has such an impact on all the work that I do in this podcast. The colour choices, the recommendations, the professionalism, that's all his. This would not be in the shape it is today. He's had to keep me on track. He's given me sound and honest and professional advice all the way through, not just because he's my mate, because that's just what Rooney Media Graphic does. I have a book called My Head to My Heart. Niall produced this and his team. All the illustrations, all the work went into it, guiding me through that process really smoothly, no hassle at all. Again, not because he's me mate, because he's ultra professional. I'm away with the board sometimes, I meander and go left or right, but I get the work done. I get it over the line. He's the same, but he just works slightly different. He's on the ball, very meticulous, very professional. Rooney Media Graphics, absolutely brilliant company. And I'm not just saying that because he's my mate. We are in the process of reprinting this, and this was a version we done with TSB. They sponsored us. They got their logo on the front, on the inside, and they gave them out to staff as gifts. And I also done a talk there. I've done a few talks with TSB now. So if that's something that your company or school or college would like to do, would like to sponsor us or collaborate with us on getting one of these produced for your company or your college or school, please let me know. We're open to collaborations with people and partnerships. So yeah, that's that. So thanks very much to Niall Riley and Rooney Media Graphics. So back to the episode of this podcast. So I got asked the question, right? I love getting questions because it really then makes me, as I say, reflect upon my own practice, reflect upon my own learnings and path, you know. Here was the question: how did I become accepting of me? There was another kind of question, and I was like, I didn't really understand what he meant by it. And it's like, can you explain it again? He was like, look, how did you become accepting of you? I drink, I take drugs, I find it difficult to be on my own and be with my own company. And I thought it was a man, a lad that I know, and I thought it was a phenomenal question because I love it. One, because he's a man and I'm a man, and he's revealing a vulnerability to another man. And that is really, really hard to do. And I'll talk about that also in a few minutes too. So I was really delighted and felt privileged and grateful that another man could tell me about a perceived weakness that he may think he has. But I thought it was brilliant, and I thought it was a show of strength. So this is what I say, and this is what I said to this lad is, I didn't know that I couldn't be with myself, or was okay with my own company, because I went through life unconscious. I drank and I took drugs, and I didn't know. I never left that space. I didn't know what it was like to not be with myself. I just drank and I took drugs, and I had negative behavior and toxic behavior and sleeping around, chaos in my mind. I knew no different. I knew no different. But it was only till 2012 that I realised there was a problem. And if you've read my book or you've listened to stuff that I've done before, I wanted to take my life by suicide. I wanted to end it all, and my pal Toy Luby says you don't want to die, you just want the pain to stop. And we were on a boat going to England, and you've probably heard the story, and I wanted to jump in, and he was like, you just want the pain to stop, but also you don't like the cold, and if you jump in there, the chances are you won't die and you'll be freezing for a while, and you don't like the cold. So it's like, nah, that's not fucking happening, not a chance. I laugh about it now, but I did smile then, and it changed my life. But what that pivot point there was, I knew that there was a problem, and I had to start finding out what the problem was. And that required me to go inside. It pointed the arrow in that there's a problem going on, that I was struggling with anxiety, worries, fear, shame, guilt, pain, self-doubt, self-sabotage, eating behaviour. There was a umpteen list that I had difficulties with, and I had to go and start doing the work. I had to turn in, as my pal Jeff Thompson, my mentor Jeff Thompson said, stop working out and start working in. And that's what I did. That was a flag, a red flag, to say that there's something going on. And I've talked before, you know, awareness is the greatest agent for change. I now became aware that there was work needed to be done, and I turned in and I started doing counselling. I linked in with my counsellor in 2012 and start doing the work, start revealing why I was feeling anxious, why I was drinking and taking drugs, really getting to know and understanding myself. You know, all the stuff that happened in my childhood, all the stuff that happened in my teenage years, all the mistakes I made, all the hurt that I caused people, looking at what was the driver behind it all. But all the while, I'm peeling back layers and layers and layers and layers of myself to really reveal who I am, what I was all about, why I did what I did, what was the driver, what. Because before I was blind, I was ignorant to it all. I didn't know why I was doing, why I was acting out, why I was hurting all these people, why I was hurting my family, why I was hurting my friends, why I was lying and cheating and stealing and doing all these for me, all these immoral things. You know, why was that about? I knew they were wrong and bad and all that, but I'd rationalise them with certain words and language and blah blah blah. But at a level, I knew, because I used to be in my house here struggling when I wasn't drinking or taking drugs, coming down off stuff. I'd be riddled with guilt, anxiety, shame, fear. But I just kept topping it up with drink, topping it up with more drugs, sniffing and texting girls and riding around and doing all sorts to avoid. But it was at a subconscious level. I didn't know I was doing that. And it was only when I started doing the work with Maggie and turning in that I realised what was the driver. It was all the pain, the hurt and shame and stuff that happened in my childhood, my sexual abuse, the violence, all the things that were said to me as a kid that made me feel, well, they happened and I felt, unworthy, unlovable, not loved, dirty. Some terrible things were said to me as a kid. Some terrible things happened, and I'm not blamed. Just I understand now what shaped my path, shaped me, what turned me into taking drugs at the age of 12 and 13 and drinking and how it all snowballed. So I understood me. So now I understood why I was avoiding all that, because I was easing off on the drinking, easing off on the drugs. And for a man, to start delving inside to talk about his weaknesses, his vulnerability, was incredibly hard and incredibly painful. Like, even that in itself, I had great shame about that. I'm a man and I'm anxious, because I was told growing up that men don't cry, men are weak, men are strong, only girls cry and girls are weak, and shut up and get on with a type of attitude. So the fact that I was sitting and talking about my feelings and emotions and my vulnerabilities was really hard, and it was crippling in itself. But I knew, not in my intellectual mind, in my heart of hearts, that this was the path, this was where I needed you. The hardest path brings the hardest or the biggest rewards. And it just felt like the thing to do. And people had told me before, like, you don't have to keep going to all accounts all the time, and do you not think you've enough done? But my heart was telling me no, they keep going, they keep going. And look, I was asked this question. Actually, this same person said to me, and they thanked me, and they were struggling asking the question because it's another man. And as I said earlier, a man revealing vulnerability to another man is really difficult, right? And I was having a conversation with someone in the gym, a pal of mine, Shrin, in the gym, about men and feelings and all, right? It's really hard for men to talk about vulnerabilities, okay? Now, I'm not talking about the gender movement and all this kind of thing. I'm only talking from a man's point of view, because I'm not a woman. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, and I can only talk from my viewpoint as a man, and from my cognitive rehab therapy training and the courses that I've studied about men's brains and women's brains. I know the difference. There's a great book out, I think it's called Why Men Can't Earn and Why Women Can't Read Maps or something. I was on this training, it's called Cognitive Rehab Therapy Training, and it helps you understand men and women from an anatomical point of view, the way the men's brain is structured, and the neurons, and the women's brains are structured, and the neurons and all that are different. Okay, so from my point of view, from a man's point of view, men's brain is totally different than to a woman, because I go and do courses and it's predominantly all women. And I've been asked before, why is there not men on the course? And I says, look, from an ancestral thing, from Paleolithic times, from back in the dark ages, men's brains were shaped and wired for hunting, for killing, for fighting. Women's for, and I hope I don't offend anyone, I'm just regurgitating what I've learned, what I understand, that women's were structured word to for community, for birth, for family, for cooking and all that kind of stuff. Family, community, man. So when things hit the fan, when shit hits the fan, when there's trouble, men divide, conquer, fight, go alone, go into their mind, kill, fight, get the animal, kill, whatever, fight the enemy, blah, blah, blah. Women, when there's trouble, they come together, they communicate, they talk about it. So the words differently, totally different. So for now in 2022, to ask a man to come in and talk about his vulnerabilities, to talk about his weaknesses, talk about his guilt, anxiety, his fear, his shame, and on top of all that, he feels this pressure from society that men are not meant to be weak, and men are not meant to be vulnerable, and are meant to be strong, and are meant to, be able to deal with adversity. So that in itself That in itself is really, really difficult. Really, really difficult. And it's all at an unconscious level. All at an unconscious level. And look, I've seen it myself in my own family. My own family turning to me when things are shit or there's trouble. Like I would be seen as the strong one, but yeah, I was struggling inside. Like really struggling inside. But I was torn to because I was seen as the strong one. I was the man and da 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 da. So that in itself is a pressure. So for a man then to talk about his weakness and his vulnerability, it's really, really, really hard. You know, so I know from my own experience, like working on the door in Bray. When I worked on the door in Bray, I was a doorman, and I used to be absolutely petrified. And I never told anybody. I dared not tell anybody because one, I was meant to be a doorman and I was meant to help and save people if there was a fight. But like, I used to be shitting, absolutely shitting because the establishment didn't want, oh no, I don't mean to be stereotypical or anyone. They didn't want people from town. Yeah, I'm from town. Didn't want townies coming in, scumbags, wrecking the place. They didn't want anyone from the travelling community coming in. Didn't want 6'5" Polish lads, what they would call foreigners. They were like foreigners. Then you had the middle class rugby lads. So like, I was worried about all groups coming in case it kicked off. But yeah, I was so scared inside I couldn't even tell anyone that I was nervous and anxious and I was well out of my depth because I was perceived to be strong and hard because I talked the talk, but inside I was absolutely struggling. But here's the thing, right? What I know for sure, is vulnerability, talking about your weakness, is not weak and it's not meek and you're not lesser than. I think it's absolutely brave. It's extremely brave and extremely powerful. To be able to talk about your weakness, be able to talk about your vulnerabilities, talk about your anxieties, your fears, your self-doubts, and still carry on and still get on with life is absolutely fantastic. By doing the work, by me going in and dealing with my pain and turning into it, I can now sit with the dark and I can also sit with the light. I can go have deep, meaningful conversations. I can go to toy box and I go just to train there. But the fear to go there, I can go there and train with these lads where before I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, I'm fucking terrified of life. But I can still go there and I can do that. But yeah, I can also talk about love, kindness, vulnerabilities, sadness, death. I can do both. I can hold the dark and the light with both hands with equal measure. And that makes me feel really, really powerful. And I would say the same to any man. Go and learn to deal with the darkness, learn to deal with the pain, the anxiety, the fear, because when you start to come out of it and you're able to do both, it's incredibly powerful. I feel like a powerful, incredible leader for myself. I feel stronger that I'm able to hold the dark and the light together. Does that make sense? I was asked a brilliant question at one of the workshops. I run a workshop called the 3M's, Mind, Movement and Meditation. It's a program that I teach in schools and colleges that I hope to inspire kids to be able to use their mind, movement, meditation and mindfulness to create a space between fear, anxiety, pain and trauma and love and life. And it's a really simple concept that I have, but that's what I do. And I teach kids how to do that because we have the pain and anxiety, worry, and sometimes we can become so attached to it. By using our mind, the movement and meditation, I can show them that we can create this space and we can get on with life. Because sometimes we get so attached to our pain, our trauma, our hurt, our worries and our fears that we don't let them go. But I showed them how we can do this. And it's brilliant, and I'm getting great results from it. I love doing it. It's brilliant. One of the kids on the program said to me, "What is your proudest moment?" When I told my story, when I went back and I explained it all, and I told them, "I mean, what was your proudest moment?" And I thought, wow, what a fantastic question. Now, I was sitting or standing thinking, all the education, return to education after failure and da 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 da. And I thought of working in the national rehab, working with adults who required brain injury and all the qualification. And I thought about it. Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And here's what I said. I came up with this and I said, you know what? Facing in to the darkness was my greatest achievement and was my proudest moment. Because like I said from the start, our biggest risk gives us our biggest reward. Our biggest risk gives our biggest reward. So I thought, facing into my darkness, facing into the unknown, like we talked about last week, the leap of faith. Facing into that, I think, was the proudest. It was the hardest because it brought me to my core. It brought me to the things that I was ashamed. It brought me into rooms that I had closed and boxed away for ever in a day since a kid, that I never wanted to talk about, never wanted to see again. But going in there really was the hardest thing I do. Really, some dark days, some dark nights, some dark periods in my life. But by going in there, life has dramatically changed for me. I've had phenomenal success. When I talk about success, I'm not talking about money and fame and cars and shit like that. I'm talking about things that are important to me, things that are of value to me. I've achieved everything that I've went after over the last, since 2007. I've achieved everything that I've wanted to achieve. I've returned back to education. I've went back and I've achieved a degree. I've got qualifications. I got a job in a national rehabilitation hospital. I've repaired and mended relationships with ex-partners and people that I fell out with by going and doing the work. By going and learning about myself and realising the hurt and shame and becoming okay with that and accepting that, and then going and apologising for my misgivings and the things, the hurt that I caused. The relationship with my own immediate family. My ma, I've had a difficult relationship with my ma, and I've done work on this before, but I didn't have love for my ma growing up because my ma has said some things to me as a kid. Now, I'm not blaming, I'm just saying that's what happened, but I know why she did it. She was trying to motivate me. She was trying to harden me up. She was trying to prepare me for the world, but she didn't know. She didn't get the how to do it guide of growing a ginger crazy kid that she helped create. She didn't know. She thought she was doing good by me, but she said some things that were trying to motivate me that didn't work, and it hurt me. It really did. My man never told me she loved me because she was never told she was loved. I didn't know this as a kid. I just didn't feel the love. I got is what I want. I got clothes and I got all these things, but I didn't feel loved. So by doing the work, I had the understanding, the awareness, the training, the skills to be able to go back and be able to have those conversations with my ma. And now me and my ma have a beautiful, gorgeous relationship, and I love her, and I can openly, wholeheartedly say I love my ma dearly. I accept her. Even now to this day, yeah, she irritates me like many people irritate me, or I irritate myself. I get triggered. But now I see her as a beautiful soul. My ma's lovely. That has been the reward for going in and doing the work and facing into the unknown and into myself. I have a beautiful, honest and gorgeous relationship with my ma. My dad has cancer now for the last 10 years. Me and my dad have beautiful conversations, honest and open, and I talk about his fear, and I talk about the struggles that he's having, and I'm able to share with him my path and my journey and my fears and my understanding of the world, and he benefits from that. And he said to me, he says, Matter, he said, I'm so grateful that you've done the work, you've helped us heal. And I was like, wow, that's absolutely phenomenal. That it's incredible you say that. So there, great rewards. My mom and dad having these beautiful conversations. My kids, I am more present with my kids. I'm more loving. We went to a panto there the other night, in the AXA in Ballymun. Aladdin was called. It was phenomenal. I now work with my two kids. They're with me on a Saturday, work on a stall in the Liberty Market. They're with me. And my daughter Shauna said to me, we're on our staff night out. Staff night out? I can count on one hand in the 12 years I work in the National Rehabilitation Hospital that I went on staff nights out. Now I'm having them weekly with me girls, because Shauna has her sweet stall beside mine, and Mia comes on a Saturday and helps us out. I've so much love, I'm so much connection with me kids. And that's the reward from doing the work, is help me create honesty and transparency in my life. As Jeff Thompson says, my mentor, there's many rooms in the castle of consciousness, and by doing the work and being honest and open, I'm able to go into these rooms, like I says to you, facing into the darkness, facing into the unknown, by doing the work. And by doing that, I'm creating honesty and transparency in my life. And people always thank me, thanks for being so honest, thanks for being so transparent and sharing your vulnerability. I'm not doing this for anyone else, I'm doing it for me, because I've went through life blind and unconscious and not knowing that so much richness was out there. Then now I'm just ultra honest and transparent, because it's good for me and it helps me on my path. So look, I'll wrap it back up by again coming back around, and I'm going to ask you the question: are you willing to face into the darkness? I'm not talking about your trauma, just into the unknown, being alone with your thoughts, being without the behaviours and the habits. And I mean, you'll have to do this gently if you're a drinker and taking drugs and an addict, blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying to give it all up, but are you willing to start turning in? Are you willing to stop working out and start working in, as my mentor Jeff Thompson says? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to face into the darkness? Because as I said, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. I'm absolutely delighted I've done the work, and if I can help you in any way, please send me a message, and I try share with you my learnings and my understanding of things, So there you go. Are you willing to face the darkness? Are you willing to take the risk? Are you willing to take the leap of faith? It's all lining up. So look, that leaves me to say, thanks very much. Thanks for all the courage, the encouragement, all the support from all our listeners. I really appreciate it. Thanks to my sponsor, Noel Riley from Rooney Media Graphics, and the Liberties Media Hub, LIBERTIESE. Correct me and said I got it wrong again last week. Liberties Media Hub. The girls from Shannon's Hope Line, the Soup Kitchen, Fran, you're an absolute legend. To all the people at Mead Street and the Liberties, thanks so much. The love I get from the Liberties is unbelievable. Yup, Oliver Bond Celtic, don't forget the 1st of May. They have a game on up in Richmond Park. Yup, the Pats. Please share this with family and friends. We have a YouTube channel. Subscribe to that. I've also got a Patreon page. If you'd like to send me over the price of a cup of coffee, that would be fantastic. If you don't have that, you can listen and watch the stuff I do here on the podcast or on my social media channel for $3.99. Please, if you have any time, go over onto Google and give us an L review, or on iTunes, give us a review. I'd really appreciate you. Last but not least, if you have any time, please come on down to the Liberty Market, Dublin 8, Dublin's oldest market. It's an absolutely phenomenal market. I have a stall there, sell all holistic products, incense and crystals and candles and other smelly shit, as my daughter used to say. It's a great market, and there's so many brilliant people in it. So look, there you go. Thanks. As always, mind your little self. Yup the flats, yup the podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.